Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Montoya, Hearing Officer for San Francisco Public Works. Sri Swaders is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterward through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet. So if you would like to receive information about the results of this hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider 15 items. All hearing orders concern tree removals along Market Street. The sequence is as follows. First, order number 204929 at 2 Market Street or 5 Embarcadero. Second, order number 930 at 101 Market Street. Third, order number 204931 at 200 Market Street or 1 California. Fourth, order number 204932 at 201 to 215 Market Street, followed by order number 204933 at 333 Market Street. Sixth, order number 204934 at 380 to 388 Market Street. Seventh, order number 204935, 540 to 550 Market Street. Eighth is order number 204936 from 553 to 575 Market Street. And then order number 204937 at 595 Market Street. 10th, order number 204938 at 643 Market Street, followed by order number 204939 at 801 to 825 Market Street, followed by order number 204940 at 865 Market Street, followed by order number 204941 at 901 Market Street, followed by order number 204942 at 1145 to 1155 Market Street, and finally order number 204943 at 1150 Market Street. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing item, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determinations. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the director. The director will make the final determinations. When the director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. As all cases are related to the same project along Market Street, the structure of this hearing will be different than our typical format. The hearing will proceed as follows. First, I will ask Public Works Bureau of Urban Forestry to speak first. They will provide an overview of the project and then present all 15 hearing orders in sequence. Then I will allow the applicant to speak. An extended time of 10 minutes will be provided. Public comment will be saved to the end. Instead of the normal 3-minute limitation, each speaker may have up to 10 minutes to speak to address all cases under today's hearing. Again, all 15 orders will be presented at once, and at the end will be public comment. The clerk will monitor the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or the applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. We will now begin this meeting. Brian Ong, representing San Francisco Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry, you now have the floor.
Hello, my name is Brian Ong. I'm with San Francisco Urban Forestry. I am an urban forestry inspector, and today is the tree removal hearing, June 28th, 2021. So as Tiffany mentioned, we will be kind of having a different format today. because this hearing has to deal with the BART Canopies project. All 15 items are under BART Canopies project. So we will be hearing all of them first. I will present, and then each person will have, the allotted 10 minutes. So to get started, so just an overview of, you could find this on I believe the BART website. This is just kind of the BART Market Street Stations entrance canopy and escalator project. They're pretty much building 19 new stations or redesigning 19 stations along Market Street. There's 4 stations at Embarcadero, Montgomery, Powell, and Civic Center, and other canopies are options in the contract but unfunded at this time. They're going to be redoing all the escalators and creating this canopy, as you can see in this photo. Here is a photo of the Powell Street canopy. It is what it will look like once it is done. And then here is 11th and Market Street. Here is one of the new canopies that have been put in place in the past few years. Just so to recap, there's 15 applications. 49 trees are proposed to be removed, and the lieu fees and appraised values will be assessed if a tree cannot be replaced. It does say on the hearing order that trees are not replaceable, but we will work with BART to see, after, it's pretty much site specific. So each site is different with all the different infrastructure and utilities along Market Street. And BART Underground, there's very limited space to plant trees. So after the canopies are constructed, we will ask BART to plant trees, form new basins, and plant trees where feasible. So the in lieu fees and appraised values, if no trees were to be planted or replaced, if all 49 trees were to be removed, it would be a total of $151,000, $151.34. So that is the total amount that BART would have to pay if no trees were to be replaced. And the replacement trees are to be determined at this point. So to get started, order number 204929 for 2X Market Street, 5 Embarcadero Street. So basically the trees are listed under 2X Market Street, and 5 Embarcadero Street is the permit address number, in case anybody has any questions on the confusion of the addresses. And this is the removal of 3 street trees without replacement. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So before I go on, all 49 trees have been approved to be removed. So they're all going to say staff approved the removal and the public has protested. So here is the site at 5 Embarcadero Street. There's actually 2 trees here and 1 empty basin. Here's just an overview of the site. And then here is tree number 26, one of the trees. We rated it as a good condition, but because of the infrastructure of where the canopies will be going, and the trenching that needs to be done around, in the sidewalk, all the trees have been approved to be removed. So the condition was good, and so we appraised the tree value at $9,600. The next tree you can see, tree number 27, the condition as well is good, and we appraised the tree at $9,000. And then tree 28, the condition, it's empty, so for that, the appraised value is basically the in lieu fee of that. So basically the in lieu fee is $2,193. If the appraised value of the tree does not exceed the in lieu fee, then we would just issue the in lieu fee to that tree. So that's it for 2X Market Street or 5 Embarcadero. For order number 204930 for 101 Market Street, this is the removal of 4 trees without replacement. Staff has approved the removals and the public has protested. So here, again, it's an overview of the BART entrance. Here's 2 of the trees, tree 11 and 12, 13 and 14. Tree 11 we rated as good with appraised value of $5,800. Tree 12 on the right-hand side was good as well. Not the best, but it did appraise for $3,000. Tree number 13, as you can see on the right, is in good condition as well. It's rated at $3,700. And tree number 14, the condition as well is good, is the appraised value of $4,700. These are some of the nicer trees on Market Street, or at least where the BART canopies are, and just due to the construction and the trenching and the infrastructure around the trees were approved to be removed. For order number 204931, 200X Market Street. Again, the trees are at 200X Market Street, and the permit address is 1 California Street. This is for the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff has approved, and the public has protested. Again, here is another overview of the site. You can see the 4 trees here. And basically, you can see the trees. Tree number 12 is rated as poor condition, which the appraised value is the in-lieu fee, the $2,193. Tree number 13, the condition is poor. Again, the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. Tree number 14, the condition is fair, and we appraised the value at $5,200, which is the tree on the right. And tree number 15, which is the tree on the left, the condition was fair and appraised for $3,500. For order number 204932, this is for 201 to 215 Market Street. Basically, the trees are on different addresses. And the removal of 2 street trees without replacement. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, here is an overview of the site. This is the removal for 2 trees. This is the tree number 10, good condition, appraised for $2,600. And the tree number 11, the condition's fair. It's leaning over, and so we rated it as fair, and the appraised value is the $2,193. This is for order number 204933, 333 Market Street. The removal of 4 street trees without replacement. The staff has approved the removal, and the public has protested. Again, here is the overview of the site. I believe there's 4 trees to be removed, but there's 1 empty basin. 1 tree was removed because it was dead. So tree number 6 is the condition. You can see in the foreground it is paved over. And the appraised value, of course, is the in-lieu fee. And behind that is tree number 7. The condition, we rated as fair. It's been topped. It's leaning. And the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. And tree number 8, it's kind of hard to see, which is the tree on the right, which is good. It's basically a new tree that has just been planted less than a year ago. And the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. Tree number 9, you can see on the left, condition is fair. It's very sparse. The live canopy ratio is very low, and so the appraised value is the in lieu fee. Okay, so order number 204934 for 388 Market Street. Permit address is 1 Pine Street. This is for the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So again, here is an overview of the site. Tree number 5 on the left-hand side is fair. It's very sparse, not very good structure, so the appraised value was the in lieu fee. Tree number 6 on the right-hand side is very small. Again, it's not doing very well, so the appraised value is the in lieu fee. And tree number 7 on the left-hand side was in fair condition. Again, it looks like most of the trees along Market Street, wind thrown, not doing very well. You can see that there's not much canopy left. The condition was fair, and the appraised value was the in lieu fee. And tree number 8, the condition again, same thing, wind throw, 5 crown ratio, condition was fair, appraised value was the in lieu fee. Order number 204935, 540 to 550 Market Street. This is the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, here is another overview of the site. Again, here is the Montgomery site. Tree number 5 on the left-hand side. The condition was fair. As I mentioned before, most of the trees are wind thrown. Live crown ratio is very low. They are not doing very well, so the appraised value was the in lieu fee. Tree number 6 on the right-hand side, same thing. The condition is fair. Appraised value was the in lieu fee. Most of these trees aren't going to get any larger than this. This is pretty much what they're capped at in terms of growth and in terms of potential. And then this is the other side. This is tree number 1. It's in poor condition. It's almost dead, almost completely dead. So the condition was poor. Appraised value was the in lieu fee. Tree number 2, the condition was fair. It's leaning over the BART entrance, and the appraised value was the in lieu fee. Order number 204936, 553 to 575 Market Street. This is the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So again, here is a view of the site. With all the infrastructure, the canopies going in, all the little kiosks, the bathroom kiosks, and all the street lights. For replacement trees, it will be difficult. Most of these sites will hopefully have a replacement tree, a few of them, but if we're following all the requirements and for planting, it will be very difficult to replant these trees. So here is tree number 3. You could see it's kind of leaning over. It's hunched over. It's wind thrown. Condition is poor, and the appraised value is the in lieu fee. Tree number 4, the condition is poor. Again, it's wind thrown. The appraised value is the in lieu fee. Here's the other side. Tree number 1, condition is poor. There's not many leaves on it. The appraised value is the in lieu fee. And tree number 2, again, is poor. This one's been topped. And the appraised value is the in lieu fee. So just to clarify, the in lieu fee is basically what it costs to plant a tree in the city and maintain it for 3 years. So that one in lieu fee will has the ability to plant one tree somewhere in the city. It may be in downtown Soma somewhere, or it may be somewhere else in the city. But it will give us funding to go ahead and plant one tree and maintain it for the 3 years. And the appraised values, some of them are a lot more than the in lieu fee, which will give us the ability to plant more trees. So for order number 204-937, 595 Market Street, the removal of 3 street trees without replacement. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, here is another overview of the site. Again, tree number 1 is the condition. It's been paved over, and so the appraised value is the in lieu fee. Tree number 2 behind it, the condition is fair, but it's quite small, and it's been topped in the past. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. On the right-hand side, tree number 3, the condition is fair. Again, it's very sparse, and the live crown ratio is very low. The appraised value is the in lieu fee. And tree number 4 on the left-hand side of the photo is the condition is fair. Again, pretty much the same thing, but a lot smaller than the tree on the right. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. Order number 204-938 for 643 Market Street. This is for the removal of 1 street tree without replacement. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Here is the site overview. Due to restrictions, if the tree were to be removed, possibly be planted in the same spot. On the other side, there is an intersection, so we do have to maintain that 25 feet from an intersection or a crosswalk to plant a tree for public safety. So here is tree number 26. The condition is poor. It's very small. It's wind thrown. You can see that there's some green leaves, but it's not doing very well. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. On to order number 204-939. This is for 801 to 825 Market Street, the removal of 2 street trees without replacement. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, here is an overview of the site. So here is tree number 1. The condition is fair. Looks a little bit better than the other ones, but after doing the appraised value of the tree, it just didn't make it. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. And tree number 3 on the right-hand side, the condition is poor. You can see that there's some dead and dying limbs. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. Order number 204-940, 865 Market Street. This is a removal of 2 street trees without replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. So here, again, it's overview of the site. Tree number 5, it's in poor condition. It is leaning over the road. The structure is poor. It's just not in a good spot. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. The photo on the right is tree number 6. The condition here is poor. The appraised value is the in lieu fee. Again, sparse, some dead and dying limbs. It's wind thrown. It's pretty much reached its maximum potential. So on to order number 204941. This is for 901 Market Street. This is the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Again, here is the overview of the site. It is close to an intersection again. So the trees on the left, it'd be very difficult to replace. Trees on the right, just depending on the placement, the canopies and, the distance from that street light on the right-hand side over here. It's going to be very difficult to try and get a tree in there. But, as I said before, we're going to work with Bart on each and every site to see if a spot can be planted. Any amount of trees around the sites on either side. If it is plantable, then we will have Bart plant it. So for tree number 7, for the site, you can see the tree, it's leaning. Again, it's wind thrown. Condition is poor. The appraised value is the in-lieu fee. Tree number 8 on the right-hand side. The condition is poor. This tree has been topped in the past. It may look healthy, but it's not. It's just growing some stress related sprouts to make it try and survive. So the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. On the other side is tree number 9. The condition was good, but at some point the diameter of the tree pretty much dictates the price or the appraised value of the tree. So the appraised value, because it was good, but the diameter of the tree was smaller, so therefore the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. Tree number 10 on the left, kind of behind it, as you can see, there's not much left to the tree. It's pretty much dead and dying. So the condition is poor and the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. So order number 204942 for 1145 to 1155 Market Street. This is the removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Here is an overview of the site. Here is tree number 5 on the left hand in the photo. The condition is fair. It's not doing very well. It's wind thrown. It's kind of leaning. Condition is fair. Appraised value, the in-lieu fee. Tree number 6 on the right hand side. Again, same thing. It's not looking too good. The condition is fair. The appraised value is the in-lieu fee. And tree number 1 on the other side, the condition is fair. Same exact thing as the other tree. It's wind thrown. Live crown ratio is very low. The condition is fair. Appraised value is the in-lieu fee. Tree number 2 on the right hand side is the condition is fair, but the live crown ratio is just very low. So the appraised value is the in-lieu fee. And the final one, order number 204943 1150 X Market Street. This is removal of 4 street trees without replacement. Staff approved the removal and the public has protested. Here is the site overview. These trees actually look really good. So you can see when the tree on the right hand side, the condition was good. The appraised value was $5,700. And the tree on the left, it's a lot smaller. It's pretty much shadowed and growing underneath the canopy of all the other trees at the site. There's a lot of trees over here. So the appraised value is the in lieu fee. On the other side, this is tree number 5 on the right-hand side of the photo over at Civic Center. The condition is good, and the appraised value is $7,400. Tree on the left-hand side, the condition's good, good-looking tree. So the appraised value is $7,500. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have approved all 49 trees to be removed, with replacement to be determined. Most trees will not be replaced, unfortunately, but we will be able to, if trees aren't replaced, then we will get that in lieu fee of the appraised values. So that I am done with my presentation.
Thank you. So we'll now have the applicant, will have 10 minutes to speak. And I believe it was it Mark from BART?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark Dana. Mark Dana is the representative.
Go ahead, Mr. Dana. You should be able to speak.
All right. Well, thank you, Tiffany and Brian. Really appreciate your thorough survey of our project sites and all the time you took to analyze the various condition of trees, replacement opportunities. Also thank the public for this opportunity to describe our project, and apologize for the need to take down these trees. We all like the trees as well, and we tried to minimize the impact. But first of all, I'd like to let all of you know that while BART is executing this contract, it's the Market Street Entry Canopies contract. The project is really a joint effort between BART and Muni, as these are shared entrances to the Muni and BART stations, and they're a benefit to both organizations. You enter through these entranceways to get to the concourse level to the stations, and then from there you disperse to either BART or to Muni. And as such, the city of San Francisco is paying for half the cost of these canopies, and as it benefits all of us. So the reason we're installing these canopies, it's more than just a security safety thing. We have a rolling grill at the top here so that it limits, when we close the station down, people are not sleeping in the escalator or stairway. It's really hazardous for the agents in the morning when they have to step over people that are sleeping there, and all the garbage that gets thrown into these stairwells. But the real need for the canopies is to protect the investment of our escalators. We're installing 23 new escalators at the street level at all these, the 4 downtown stations. This is Embarcadero, Montgomery, Powell, and Civic Center. And again, the 23 escalators at the street level are joint use between BART and Muni patrons. So again, the city is paying for half the cost of the street escalators. We're also installing some platform escalators, but BART is covering the cost of those, the ones that go from the concourse level down to the BART platform area. So we have 19 canopies that we're installing in the base contract. And we've installed 2 canopies already in a pilot contract. So those were completed late 2018. Some of you may have seen those, and as Brian and Tiffany have shown you here, those are some of our completed projects. The whole project started out with a design competition with the selected concept being provided by Via Architects. And it was designed to be sort of a transparent structure with glass walls so that you can see from the street to the buildings and the sidewalk beyond to make sure that you can see the businesses, and then you can see the, what might be happening in the sidewalk area, visibility for the San Francisco police and others that need to see beyond. The ceilings of the canopies are a fiberglass fabricated out of fiber. It's a reinforced plastic. And in that ceiling, we're going to have a bas relief art. Each station will have its own individual art. So all the entrances at each station will have that art embedded within it. So that is a little different than the pictures you're seeing here, which are plain white, and in the future ones will have kind of this embed art and color in those ceilings. Currently, we're installing the systems infrastructure within our stations, getting all the conduits and cable ready, so that when we install the canopies themselves, we'll just be able to plug right into them and turn them over without disruption to the stations in the future. Then in January, our actual canopy construction begins, and we'll have a canopy constructed at Montgomery Street and another one at Powell Street at that time. So that's kind of where we are now. And our contractor, Shimmick, they're very experienced and conscientious contractor, and we've enjoyed working with so far. And they've done a great job getting us to this point. So on the tree removal design process, we knew that initially we'd have to remove some trees to get these canopies constructed at each of these sites, and of course that played a big role in our environmental review process. We had a major focus of the study was to analyze the trees and the aesthetics along the Market Street corridor. And we're removing about 5% of the trees in the project area. So there's over 1,000 trees along that corridor. We're taking out 49. The reviewers from AECOM did not receive any public comments regarding the tree removal during that period, but we still knew that it was nobody likes to remove trees, but we did consider it. And despite the conclusion in the report that there was no significant impact from tree removal, we were still required the contractor to comply with the urban forestry permit rules and do whatever is necessary to mitigate for that. So the big reasons we need to take the trees down is there's two main reasons, but it's all related to safety. The contractor has a minimal barricaded lay down and construction area that they need to work in, and to when they store materials or when they need to use big equipment to move these materials in and out of this canopy entrance, it can be hazardous. You're having to work around the branches and trunk to locate the materials and then put them in place. So that's one hazard, but the real reason we need to remove them is the ability for these trees to be used like a ladder to get on top of the canopies onto the roof. So we know that people are very acrobatic, and some people are going to get up onto the roofs no matter what, but we don't want to make it easy for them to do so. We don't, it's an attractive nuisance, and it's hazardous, not only to climb the tree, but once you're up there, it's hazardous not only for the people climbing, but for the people that might be below them, the climbers can fall onto. And we expect, like they do everywhere else along the parade route there'll be a lot of parade watchers that will want to get up on top of the canopies, and potentially, we'd have campers going up on top and sleeping up there as well. So we just don't want the liability, neither the city or the BART organizations would like to have that that hazard there. And the overhang of these canopies extend far enough away that it would be easily accessible to these trees as they either in their current condition or as they mature and get larger. So I think that that's probably, I don't know if that's far enough on my time here.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
had 1 minute remaining, so
Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, any member of the public who would like to provide comment may raise their hand. If you're on the computer, you can do so using the Zoom's raise your hand function. If you're calling in over the phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. And if you're on the phone, I don't know if we have anybody on the phone, but if there is and you're muted, it's *6 to unmute. So *9 to raise your hand, *6 to unmute. And let us know if you have visual materials. So
Montoya, we have Lance Carnes.
yes.
Lance, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. And can I do a screen share?
Yes, just 1 moment. Let me promote you to panelist. You'll need to unmute yourself again, Mr. Carnes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
And can you see a picture of Amber Hasselbring on the screen?
I can.
No, I cannot.
Okay, so how do I switch to that? Let's see.
There should be a button on the bottom that's green and says screen share. And you press share screen, excuse me.
Share screen. So let's try that. Could you see Amber Hasselbring now?
Yes.
Okay. And she has a message for us all. So I'll start that up.
Okay, so I'm going to begin your time for 10 minutes, okay? Go ahead. There is no volume. There, you will need to share under your audio button. There is a little arrow or a little triangle to the right of your audio button, and you should share the sound, or under the share screen button, you will be able to share the sound with.
Okay, let me see if I can find this again. Can you direct me to the screen share again here?
You're in the screen share, and there should be a little toggle button or a triangle to the right of it, and you should be able to tell it to share the sound.
A toggle button to the right. I cannot see that. Full screen settings. Settings, maybe?
I think you're on
No,
the actual Zoom, on the Zoom application.
Right.
Okay. Let's see.
The bottom, the share audio button is on the bottom left of the white box that pops up when you go to the share screen.
So,
Well, I guess it depends on
yeah. Well, I'm
which.
pretty confused here. If you want to
um,
go on to the next person, maybe I'll fiddle with this well. Would that
Okay.
be okay? Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
Let me go to the next person. Hold on. We have Mary Clipp. Go ahead, Miss Clipp.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I have to say that, first of all, I have been a resident of the city of San Francisco now for 18 years. I have used public transit all of my life and have been especially appreciative of public transit since I have moved to San Francisco in those 18 years. However, in this instance, I have to say that I am deeply disappointed that we are using mass transit and the destruction of trees without replacement in the same sentence. 18 years ago, I would never have imagined the kind of climate crisis and environmental issues that we have been looking at today. And that a city of this fame, I guess, or this status in the States as well as around the world, has this kind of modus operandi going on is disappointing at best and very sad and I think outright wrong. I have a question. Were the inclusion of trees, these or other ones, ever considered in these stations' designs, in the design possibilities that were done in the very outset of the project? Were trees ever considered to be a condition or a tool or an implement that works side by side with mass transit in trying to keep the environment clean and provide a livable and expedient environment for the people of San Francisco and those who visit us and come here to work? I noted that the overall condition of the trees that were there, first of all, they did not appear to be that old. And it was very disappointing to see the overall condition of those trees that were slated for removal. If we are in the business of replacing trees in the city of San Francisco, wherever they are, to have trees that look like that after only a few years of life is pretty frightening. And you wonder how many will really survive to a mature adulthood to really service the people with the good things that trees do for us. The other question that I had was in the design of these structures. You talked about people wanting to use them as platforms. In this area, we have some very, very bright people. We also have very artistic people. It's hard for me to imagine that, given those aspects and the ideas of wind shear that was so integral to the destruction of those, or to the hurt that was done to the trees that were there, that a flat roof with a wind shear without sloping it in some way that would make it impossible for people to camp on or sit on, slope it in some way and to somehow incorporate trees within its overall structure would have been a magnificent statement of the city of San Francisco's commitment to living within the environment that we have here, and living within the environment that we want to give to our children in the future. That's really all I have to say right now. This is a very sad venture for a good cause, but a sad way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clipp. And we have Luis Paez. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Yes, good evening. I am actually the resident engineer working for BART to build the canopy structures. And I work with Mark Dana and just wanted to reiterate the need for removing some of these trees. And I don't think we're against replacing trees where possible. So there's definitely no, we're not deterring that or fighting against replacement if that's something we can do, for sure. Like, nobody likes to remove trees. I've also been living in San Francisco all my life, and find that there's a lot of benefit from having them, especially downtown. But with that said, we built the two canopy structures, one at Powell and one at Civic Center in 2018. And the trees were in very poor condition. We removed a few trees, and I think we replanted some trees at that time. So we were not against that either, and working within the requirements of Department of Urban Forestry. So I just wanted to reiterate the fact that the construction of these canopies does take quite a bit of equipment and materials, and they would have been very hazardous to the trees had they been tried to maintain them. Some were just, quite frankly, in the way of the canopy and their placement. But again, I just again want to say that I will certainly work with the city of San Francisco and BART and Department of Urban Forestry to replace trees as needed. We're going to build two canopies every 6 months. That's the plan. So there'll be 4 per year, and the process of removal and replacement can be dealt with maybe on a yearly basis. They don't all have to be removed at once. It's something we can certainly work with urban forestry to manage. As soon as the canopies are built, if there's an appropriate place nearby to place a tree, I'm sure that's something we can consider and work with urban forestry to make happen. So that's all I wanted to add. Just my input on that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paez. And we have also Josh Clipp. Go ahead, Mr. Clipp.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Regarding replacing trees, I really don't want to hear about how Buff is going to work with BART to see if there's anywhere a tree can be replaced. And I don't want to hear about it because I don't believe it. This project has been in the works for years, and BART has made clear repeatedly its intention not to replace a single tree that it takes out. So it's pretty disingenuous to say now at this hearing in front of the concerned public, make us feel better that, well, they'll take a look at it. No, they won't. If they wanted to do that, they could have done it a long time ago and not waited until we were all here at this hearing to say it for the very first time. I don't believe it. I don't want to hear it. Regarding the value of these trees, we heard repeatedly about these trees being in poor or fair condition or topped or just completely missing or paved over. And that's why a tree in this instance will be worth less. And I just want to remind everyone listening that any basin that was paved over on Market Street was paved over by Public Works. And any tree that was topped or poorly maintained on Market Street was also maintained by Public Works. So in other words, We might have had healthy trees in those locations, and we might have had more value being discussed here. But Public Works is apparently satisfied that since they themselves paved over those basins, or they themselves handled that maintenance, that now we, the people of San Francisco, should all settle for less of a fee now that those trees need to get out of the way. Those were our taxpayer dollars that paid for the work that is now cheating us out of healthy trees, or as a consolation prize, a higher appraised value. And by extension, this cheats us out of money that otherwise might have gone to planting more trees around our city at a time we are 8 years away from irreversible climate change. Our Department of the Environment has acknowledged that we need trees in the future in the fight for climate change, and all research unanimously indicates that a larger, healthier, established tree does more work for our environment than a new one. But here we are ripping out trees and just not bothering to take care of them in the first place, or better yet, just filling impossible locations with concrete or not even replacing them at all. And with policies and practices like this, frankly, it's little wonder we are where we are, and that any hope of climate resilience continues to slip further from our grasp. And apparently in the name of keeping rain off an escalator, or safety, and or utter lack of an imagination on how else to do that, or unwillingness to do this in a way that invests back into the future of our climate. Speaking of money, all we've been talking about is the numerical value of these trees. We haven't talked about the actual health of these trees except superficially, which says to me as an observer that this is really just a discussion on how to get these trees out of the way. There's been no discussion on the environmental value of these trees, the value of the habitat of these trees, the value of these trees to pedestrians, the people that are on Market Street, and the value of these trees to our mental and community health. So let's talk about that, because here we are in the worst drought in 1,200 years. We're facing the loss again of millions of acres of trees across California in what is anticipated to be our worst wildfire season in the recorded history of our wildfire seasons. Yet here in San Francisco, we are satisfied to cut down dozens of trees and not do everything we can to preserve the healthy trees in San Francisco. By the way, our city with the worst tree canopy percentage of any major city in the United States. And not only that, we're talking about trees in downtown and Soma and TL, where there's an average of canopy percentages ranging from around 1 to 5%. On top of that, our city is about to approve one of the lowest budgets for tree planting in recent memory in San Francisco. And that budget does not take into account the watering infrastructure that we do not have to support any additional tree planting. All right. So I want to talk about what Bart has told me about these trees. They're not concerned about how much it costs to preserve a healthy tree. What they're concerned about is how much it costs to work around it. Here's from their Assistant General Manager of Design and Construction. The laydown and construction areas are limited to a small zone within the sidewalk area. Working around trees to store materials or maneuver materials into place would further impact the contractor's efficiency. Since the contract requires tree removal, the contractor would be right to request additional compensation for the loss of efficiency and associated delay costs. Then there's tree ladders, talking about how tree ladders are going to allow people to get onto the roofs of these canopies that BART itself designed to take the load of humans. And I would ask anyone on this call to go ahead and Google Pride Parade Amsterdam, or Pride Parade Madrid, or Bastille Day in Paris, because what you'll see are hundreds of thousands of people parading down tree-lined streets. Other cities in the world have figured this out, but here in San Francisco, we cut our trees down along parade routes because, I guess, liability. I want to talk about the habitat here because that's an issue. BART has claimed that, well, because it's only 49 trees, it's not a big deal for these butterflies, which I believe Amber wants to talk about in her video. And BART also claims it's been working with city officials for years on this project, including SFMTA. So if that's the case, then BART understands that the city plans to take down just about every other tree along Market Street as part of its Better Market Streets projects. So it's fairly disingenuous for BART to say this will have no appreciable environmental impact unless it's sticking its head in the sand and pretending it has no knowledge of the Better Market Streets project. I want to talk about community and mental health. It is well established that trees are integral to our community and mental health, and also an issue of socioeconomic justice. There was an article on this in the SF Examiner just yesterday. And who are the people that would benefit from the shade of these trees on Market Street? People who are homeless, who are poor, largely people who are of color, people who are disabled. And if these BART stations were in Seacliff, I doubt we would be having this removal hearing. Reading between the lines, it looks like we value, quote, safety over shade for humans, which in our current cultural awakening is, I hate to say it, essentially code for environmental discrimination. I want to talk also about innovation because there have been so many ideas that have been brought to the table that BART has chosen to ignore. There's been a proposal to have living roofs to ensure the continuity of habitat for the butterflies that are at risk here. There's been a proposal for pop-out tree basins to plant trees where otherwise none could go. These ideas were prepared by experts like an engineer with a master's degree from MIT. But BART is clearly not interested in ideas other than its own, which is profoundly disappointing given the time we are in, which calls for nuanced, integrative, and holistic solutions. Finally, I just want to talk very briefly about procedure, because BART has continually dodged my simple questions about the procedural aspects of this removal process, specifically whether it thinks it actually needs Public Works permission to remove these trees in the first place, or if we're just here for show, whether it plans on paying anything more than the administrative fees. I will say that this is the first time in this hearing that I have heard that they plan to pay something upwards of $150,000, because in correspondence with BART officials up until now, there's been no commitment to anything, possibly the administrative fees. And finally, there's been no response on whether the public will have the right to appeal the decisions issued here, as it would have under any other permit issued under Public Works Code Article 16. So what I am left with as a member of the public who has attempted to get answers from BART on this is whether this is just a vanity hearing or this is a foregone conclusion, because this project has been in the works for so long. Now we're just here to rubber stamp the removal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clipp. And we have Natalia Kresich. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name. You should be able to go ahead and speak.
No, that's correct. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm calling in opposition to the cutting of any trees along the Market Street corridor for the new BART elevator structures. A good planner or architect should be able to create a design that works around existing elements and does not require the death of viable trees. The fact that these planners are seeking the removal of 49 trees leads one to believe that the problem is not the trees, but the design itself. I really urge the planners to go back to the drawing board and come up with a design that does not require deforestation of San Francisco's already dwindling urban canopy. In order to both combat the climate crisis and make San Francisco a livable city in what will be increasingly harsh environmental conditions, we need trees. So my question is, why does San Francisco's city departments seem to consider trees as an afterthought or as expendable? This lack of consideration for trees is unacceptable. We don't need a new plastic cover for BART entrances. We don't need any new quote unquote art in the BART stations. We need trees and we need accessible public transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kresich. And we have D.G. Bowler. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Yes, I'm here to object to the removal of trees from Market Street for the purpose of putting up these extraordinary structures. I can only imagine that the motivation for it comes from having the funding. They have the funding, they're going to use it. And furthermore, they're going to use it without the permission of the people of San Francisco, whose streets they're putting these in on and whose trees they're planning to take out. I find it outrageous. And it's the first I knew that Muni is half of the bargain, because we've been through it with Muni and the way they handle the funding they have for constructions, taking down probably 100 trees on Van Ness Avenue in the endless project they have fixing it up for supposedly improved transit, forcing people to go into the middle of the street and to get their bus and cross the street back again to get off it at risk of their lives. If that's a major thoroughfare. But the thought that they're coming in with these extraordinary, huge platforms to protect some fancy escalators they're putting in. I say take that money and take it back to Washington and find another source, another reason to use it. I'm outraged and I'm talking like that, and I'm going to stop now, but I'm not going to quit.
Thank you, Ms. Bowler. And we also have Lisa Darler. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Hi, I just want to say that I'm just aghast at the suggestion of cutting down 49 trees in San Francisco to make room for roofs for the uh, BART enclosures where people stand, I guess, and wait for the BART. So is this a foregone conclusion, or is there more that we can do to register a very hardy objection? Did anyone hear my question and will respond?
So I'll give a chance if for any other comment at the end. But if you are finished with your comment, we have a video after this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. And yes, we can play the video that Josh is putting on in Lance's place.
Okay, just a moment, please, and I will promote you to panelist, Mr. Clipp.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let me just, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hopefully this works.
Hello, I'm Amber Hasselbring, Executive Director of Nature in the City. We're here today to oppose the tree removals for BART and SFMTA for the new canopies projects, unless they can provide canopies with living roofs as they were designed to do. We believe this is really important for the western tiger swallowtail butterfly habitat, as well as for other wildlife that are using the corridor. The Better Market Street efforts are beautiful and comprehensive, and habitat needs to be included. So as the canopies get built, we urge BART and SFMTA to, if they're going to remove trees, plant healthy rooftop habitats on top of these canopies. They were designed for it, and let's make that happen. All right, thanks so much.
That's all.
Thank you for that.
And are those all the hands, Sharice?
We have one more hand from John Nolte. Go ahead, Mr. Nolte.
Good evening. A couple of things I want to bring to the table. One, since this is Main Street of San Francisco, and this is the city has been having meetings with various departments about Market Street for ever since, Polly started the city, having, being next to City Hall and everything else. They always had to talk about, the main street. So I would want to bring to the table here that as a native and having to the conversion of Muni and BART downtown, and this is a major corridor for all the Muni lines and also BART coming into San Francisco currently, that we are putting in transit, but not taking care of the environment. The person that spoke for BART said, oh, there's 1,000 trees on Market Street. That's not correct. For the lower Market Street, there's only 600 something trees. And he did an environmental report. So therefore he couldn't count. I could count how many trees there were. And then we hear about the ones that have been paved over. So, you know, I've been going to meetings for over 20 years on Market Street. And we come up with ideas and monies how to spend it on on BART in the surrounding area, but apparently, because now we got money from the federal government and so forth, this project's going through. That's the only really reason why it's happening. So I'm concerned that you know, I didn't hear about the replacement trees. What would be the replacement trees? Since Burf has already stated what the replacement trees would be on Market Street, but I didn't hear that in the presentation. Number one. Number two, what size of the replacement trees would be put in? That was never discussed. Number three, all I heard was the in lieu fees. Here you have Market Street. You already have empty basins on Market Street. And I'm sure you could count 50 or so that could be put into those empty basins that are not exactly around the BART station entrances that we were talking about tonight. So I would suggest in the motion, since you're going to be taking out these trees, that you put in the trees back on Market Street in the empty basins that are currently there, or the trees that are dying, whatever, and put them in those locations. But I don't appreciate, for safety reasons, you're taking out the trees. It's the safety of who? And the liability to who? My taxpayers' money. I'm concerned about how it's being spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. And we have Casey Asbury. Go ahead, you should be able to speak.
Thank you. It's Casey Asbury with the Demonstration Gardens and the Tenderloin People's Congress Environmental Justice Committee. I'm speaking in opposition to removal of the trees. These enclosures are a gross architectural mistake. This experiment has been tried at 7th and Market and clearly failed, leading to more crime and dysfunction there. If there is any money for public transit in these difficult times, it should not be spent on tree removals, which cost an average of $2,700 a piece, but rather on making public transit more accessible to everyone. No trees should be removed at all, even contemplated removal, until offset groves are established for the sensitive western tiger swallowtail habitat. Even if you built roof gardens on top of these enclosures, it would still take too long to establish to keep these butterflies healthy. And replacement trees in this environment of drought and vandalism are a fallacy, even if they were offered. So this project is ill-conceived for this time. We need to rethink it. We need to be responsible stewards both of our green environment and fiscally responsible. We have to build for resilience, and this is not the correct direction. And I really hope that Mr. Duffy and other members of BART leadership are hearing us, because well, you've heard tonight from a number of citizen scientists, engineers, experts in this field, and we're clearly telling you that this is a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Asbury. I do not see any other hands at this time, Ms. Montoya.
Okay. Then I will allow Brian from Buff if you would like to offer any responses.
Yeah, this is Brian with San Francisco Urban Forestry. I'll just address a few things that were mentioned. In terms of replacement trees, because this is something that I haven't dealt with, or Buff in particular with these types of canopies. Replacement trees. I'm not exactly sure if they were discussed with other agencies, but in terms of Buff, we're going to try and make BART replace as many trees as they can. The size of the tree would at least be a 36-inch box or 48-inch box tree. Just because the placement of all the canopies and the trenching and all the infrastructure, we weren't exactly sure. So we will be working with BART. I can't guarantee you that trees will be replaced, but that's just how it's going to go for now. I did mention that some trees were topped. That was probably a misuse of the word. The trees were actually vandalized. Those trees that were topped on Market Street, as most of them are when they're very young and don't grow to the potential. In terms of the pave-overs on Market Street, some of those trees have been paved over due to better Market Street. At this point in time, there are some sites that have paved over just because Better Market Street was going to come in and open up those sites and plant a new tree, or in some instances, some of those sites, with the Better Market Street plan, they were going to narrow some of the sidewalks. So at that point in time, we did have either urban forestry or public works pave those over, or sometimes there were construction and we did have them pave it over for Better Market Street, just because the uncertainty of that now. Better Market Street, I'm not exactly sure if they're going to be continuing on with that that master plan. So just to clarify a few things, yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, and then at this time, I can we'll allow 3 minutes to address any questions from the applicant. Mark, if you're still online.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for unmuting me. Again, thank you for this this opportunity to talk to you all. I understand the concern and the outrage, I guess. But I just wanted to clear a few things up. We did consider working with the Urban Forestry Department from the beginning, and that's the process we were told to take. We did have in lieu fees in mind to replace trees. We didn't design where to put them yet. Various conditions were going to need to be taken. We used the original survey from several years back that's produced every several years. That had been modified during Better Market Street's design recently, so we did get that. And then Brian's gone out there more recently to see what the actual condition is now. So I think we are working with the process, and I don't know what people have heard otherwise, that we weren't replacing trees or weren't doing anything, hadn't got it designed, but that's the process we were told to take. And that's the one we're taking. The comment about the sloped roof, that was considered, that wasn't the design concept, because the design was to make the canopies look transparent, so that you could not see the canopy as much. You wouldn't block as much of this, the buildings behind, or the business signage with the canopy roof. We wanted the roof line to be very small. So that's why we did that. And accessibility was mentioned by Ms. Asbury, and we appreciate that. And that's why we're installing the escalators, to make them more reliable, and why we're installing the canopies to protect the escalators, to keep them reliable so that people can get into the stations more easily. It's difficult to make everybody happy with everything, but we have put a lot of thought into the design, and this is where we are now. There was another thing that I wanted to respond to, and I'm not recalling, but I think that'll do it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sharice, are you seeing that there's, did we go through everyone? I believe that should be the end.
Yes, everyone that has had their hand up to speak has already spoken. There's one person who had their hand up, but they've already spoken earlier.
Okay. Then if there's no people who have not spoken yet, I will close this hearing, and I will be making my recommendations to the director. Thank you everyone for your comments, and please stay safe. This hearing is now closed.